Like for dudes especially, where you're like, wait a minute, like I need to wear what and do what in a room with who?
Exactly. It's a little feminine, you know.
Yeah.
Like, I used to do a lot of sports and bang weights.
Yeah.
You know. And
you're like, this
yoga?
is not my thing.
Yeah.
Excuse me, what?
Yeah.
I can touch my toes just fine.
Right, barely.
Thanks. Thanks.
So yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that you know, I finally took like the third advice and really just thought hard about it and said, all right, why not? You know, just give it a try. You know, like above all, it's your goal is to get healthier. So, and 3 people have told you already to do it. You know.
Yep.
And so yeah, I gave it a go. I went to 24-hour fitness where yoga was only available. You know, there wasn't, you know, 5 yoga studios on each block.
Right. Oh, the world, how it changes, right?
Yeah, which is dope. You know, 5 days a week that's awesome. I mean, five you know, locations in 2 mile square radius is like nice. Hey, what's up? Yoga everywhere? Let's do it.
It's way worse things, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Way worse things.
Yeah. So anyway, so I did it, and I happened to meet a really rad teacher who happened to become my #1 mentor as I was like going into the teaching world. Kelly Houston. Kelly Houston, I love you. My girl Kelly Houston. Yeah, she had this style of just like, I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna work you to bring you to your max, bring you to the edge where you're looking over, and you're like, you go to that very, very end, but you're not gonna fall over.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then she pumped my music.
Amazing.
Yes.
Hold up, what's your music?
Can you guess?
Can I guess? You just said dope a second ago, so I'm gonna have to go with anything with a good beat. Mm-hmm. Specifically, I'm gonna go old school hip hop to newer school hip hop.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, rap, hip hop, R&B, reggae.
Reggae is some good stuff.
Yeah.
Reggae is some good yoga stuff too.
For sure.
Yep.
So yeah, you'll find a lot of my classes that I teach heavily just what you described plus
right.
Yeah, and some acoustics too.
You know what though? I think in today's world it's so easy to like, I've run into this too. It's so easy to, especially when you're first a teacher, think to yourself like, oh, my playlist has got to be like Indian flute or, you know, like some sort of eagle situation. No, man, like, no, you're just moving your body. Like, find something that you like to move your body to and then do it.
Yes.
And it's fine.
Yeah, it is fine.
Yeah.
To each their own.
Yeah. Like, you can do whatever you want. And it's, I say that with the caveat of, by the way, I am a flute player.
Right, that's right, yeah.
So, there's that. But, yeah, I mean, I can't do that every day.
Right.
Like, even as I'm, like, a flautist, I can't.
Right.
There are some days that I'm like, listen, Biggie, you and me, we're
right.
gonna do some yoga today.
Yeah.
Okay? Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, cool.
So yeah, so then that's where my journey began. You know, ever since then, well, I should say like 3 months down the line from beginning yoga, I didn't even really notice it. I didn't really think about it, but my tendonitis was gone.
Cool.
Gone, you know?
Cool.
And I was loving the class and feeling that vibe and so yeah. Anyway, that's my little story.
No, it's a great story.
So thanks for joining me today.
No problem. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Yeah. Hang out and talk yoga and talk about life. I love the art of storytelling. I love listening to journeys, hearing about them. I think everyone has a journey that they've gone through or going through that need to be shared. So Elizabeth Seymour today, thanks for joining the Yogamentary.
Yeah, absolutely. Yogamentary.
Yeah.
Like what you did.
So, yeah, tell me a little bit about yourself in terms of where you come from.
I grew up in Denver.
Right.
Grew up in Denver. I moved out here to LA this is going to be my third year in LA. I don't know, what can I tell you about where I grew up? I grew up in Littleton, Colorado. Was a skier for a long time.
Nice.
I don't know, kind of.
And skiing, and you said Littleton.
Yeah.
So Columbine.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of those people could have used a lot of yoga during that time.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I think it really, really, really great teacher that I used to go to. She'd always take time to remind her students, to remind me, to remind anyone around her, like yoga, right? Yeah, like yoga can be linking breath to movement in asana. Sometimes yoga can also be looking at a thing of ice cream and being like, oh wow, this is what I need. The reason I say that is when Columbine happened, which I was in middle school at the time. I was in 7th grade. What a crazy thing to happen to a community.
Right.
Like Littleton, Colorado was just this tiny little place that no one knew about. Like no one knew about us. We were just like this little teeny Front Range town. Right. It was like King Soopers, like whatever, right? When Columbine happened, it was incredibly shocking, and I think like any tragedy, there's always a dark and light side to everything. When Columbine happened, I've never been part of a community coming together until then, and I haven't since. To me, that was yoga. What happened after Columbine took place, to me, was yoga. It was people looking at each other, not like...
you guys came together.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, children lost their lives, right? Like, parents were affected. Teachers were affected. Friends were affected. People who were in after-school programs were affected. Businesses were affected. Like, everyone knew everyone anyway. And after that happened, I remember, and again, I was in middle school, but there's this street, Bellevue, Bellevue and C470. Bellevue runs from like the base of the foothills, Bulls Avenue, runs from like the base of the foothills east, right? And it goes past Columbine High School. That whole street for miles was loaded with flowers from all over the world. There were so many flowers that were sent to Littleton, Colorado from all over the world that like people didn't even put them inside. They just left them, and you would be driving down the street for miles and see flowers stacked up like 3-4 feet high.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's a lot of love right there.
It was really incredible, and it was really incredible to watch, you know, the reaction of parents. I remember my mom was out of town actually when that happened. She was on a business trip, and I was staying with a family friend. And
wow, your mom wasn't there during that time.
No,
wow,
and so when it happened, my mom, I went to Deer Creek Middle School, which is one of the schools that kind of fed in. Like, there were some students from Deer Creek that went to Columbine. There were some students from Deer Creek that went to Chatfield High School, which is the high school that I went to. But
it's like the rival school or the next neighbor.
Yeah. But, you know, like, every school in the area was on lockdown. There were helicopters that were flying all over the place.
Right. People
were getting on the internet during this time, like when the shooting started. I think it was morning. I have a fuzzy memory on all that now. But all we kept hearing were that there were like pipe bombs in a school.
Right.
And we couldn't leave our school. And there was SWAT coming into our school, locking stuff down. And it was all over the news. It was on international news so quickly. And so my mom knew about it on the news before she could even reach me. And she's away.
Crazy.
And so many parents,
as a mother, I'm sure she's like freaking out. What's going on?
So many parents looked at their kids differently, I think, after that time.
For sure.
You know?
Yeah.
Where you come home and you're like, whoa, wait a minute. It's not only important for me to say I love you for you. Mm-hmm. It's important for me to say I love you for me.
Right.
It's important for me to have this time with you for me. Because you never know.
Yeah, you never know. Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, like it was super intense.
Yeah, that's and that's where you and beautiful, yeah. And that's where you come from, and that's kind of like what your town is known for. That's crazy. Yeah. And you know, we're dealing with it today again. You know, it's still going on. Yeah. Same issues are still going on, and all these years later, how many years ago? Holy gosh.
When did that happen? Did that happen in 1998, 97?
So almost 20 years ago, 21 years ago, something like that. Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a hot minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then recently April in Florida, 20th. Like 20 years later, it's still going on.
Yeah. And, you know, to kind of bring this back to yoga, too, it was, I mean, obviously. Yeah. You're my boss. Right. We teach kids yoga, right? I went to a school recently in Santa Monica, and one of the kids who's 5, you know, the room is mostly 5-year-olds, and one of the kids likes bringing up guns, right? Like, he always wants to be a warrior, and there's obviously like this is coming from a child. This is not coming from any sort of malintent. Sure. This is not coming from, you know, any of that. He loves this idea of being a warrior. Right. And in today's world, warriors have guns. Right.
Yeah. And they've always had guns, right? But yeah. Yes, definitely.
Or swords or something, right? Mm-hmm. Something. And he brought up this topic of guns. He brought it up before. I numbed it down before it could spread like wildfire throughout the class. But on this particular day, that did not work. Right. You know, he brought up guns, and all the kids in the class were like, oh man, guns. My mom likes guns. My mom doesn't like guns. Like, and it just became a debate, a political debate among 5-year-olds. And I was like, preschoolers. Holy cow, like, how am I going to field this conversation? Right. And I was terrified. Right. Because I didn't want kids to go home and be like, wow, Miss Elizabeth has this opinion on guns. Right. You know, like, whew. So I just kind of got all the kids together, and what I love most about teaching kids yoga is I find answers to life from them more often than I do from adults.
Interesting what they can tell you and teach you.
Oof. Yeah. So I got all of them to sit down, and, you know, I let them know, hey guys, you know, we're having a grown-up discussion right now. We're having a really adult discussion about guns. But the discussion came up. I think too often as adults, when kids bring stuff up, we want to stop it. Mm-hmm. If a child is bringing up a conversation, it's because they're requesting an answer.
Straight up.
And so we all sat down, and I just said, guys, like, who has guns? Mm-hmm. And they said, you know, soldiers or policemen or, you know, whoever. I said, what do these people use guns for? And they said, to protect. Mm-hmm. And they gave me that answer so quickly, to protect. Right. And I was like, okay, genius. Right. To protect what? Mm-hmm. And this was the part that was, I guess, the bigger surprise to me. They got really quiet and just came out with, warriors have guns to protect the things that they love. And powerful. It blew me away. And my question to them at that point was, do you think you need a gun to protect love? And every child said no. Really? Every child said no. You don't need a gun to protect love. And so we just had a conversation. What do you need to protect love? Mm-hmm. Listening. Yeah. Communication. Conversation. Being polite. Right. Being nice to your friends.
Yeah. Basics. Basics is
so
what
basic.
we all learned at a young age, right?
So basic.
Right.
And
but like the strong roots.
And just the innocence of a child saying that too. Like
Right.
all of us I think know that.
Right.
You know, like we could all like as adults come up with that and it wouldn't be as mind-blowing, but when a
Right.
5-year-old sits there and goes, by the way, real warriors, their job is to protect love. You're
Right.
like, okay.
Yeah, straight up.
So, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
It kind of ties
so-
into the Columbine thing, and this
It does.
happened really soon after the Florida shootings.
Right,
recently.
right. That's beautiful that you were able to have that conversation with them and kind of have that open discussion, and you gave them an opportunity to speak, you know, and then work together with you as their yoga teacher.
I don't. Yeah, I feel like my job more than teaching them is holding space.
Mm-hmm. True. We all need that space, regardless of how old we are, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just giving a child space to
Right.
to be who they are. I mean,
Right.
we've all had those teachable moments in our lives
Sure.
that when they happen, it's not because anyone else did it to you. It's that
Right.
you were given space to have an aha moment.
Yeah, straight up. Well, some of you guys know, some of you guys don't know. I have a company called Yoga Motion Classes. We provide yoga classes for students in schools. And I was really blessed one day to get in contact with Elizabeth. We were looking to hire a yoga teacher in Silver Lake.
Yeah.
No, where was it? The initial school.
I was in. Where was the initial school?
It's been so long. There's been so many schools.
Oh my gosh! Yeah. Now I'm trying to think.
Right? We'll figure it out. It'll click in.
I know that I did my first class at St. Matthew's.
Right.
It expanded from there to Holy Trinity.
Right. And then
Um,
you were helping Denise out with Baxter. In
I was
Silver Lake.
yep, and I was doing Baxter,
Yes.
Baxter Montessori, and then it expanded to CMC Alhambra.
Right.
And then
all over the place.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Alhambra
so,
Methodist.
We've been blessed with you, and like thank you so much for like being a part of our family. And when I love about like you and our squad is that you're passionate, you mean
you.
well, you're good at what you do.
Thank you.
The kids connect well to you, and you're doing your part in what you can do to contribute to society in a really positive, like
you.
life-changing way.
That's really cool. Thank you so
You know,
much.
and that's
Yeah.
kind of the premise of Yoga Motion. You know, that's
Yeah.
what we wanted to do. You know, Heather and I, we wanted to, you know, be able to contribute to society and, you know, change in this world and providing this tool, yoga, that you and I know as adults, to be so powerful to help
Yeah.
us to navigate through life. That we felt like if I had this when I was 5 years old, 8 years old, 10, 12, 15 in Columbine, Florida,
Yeah.
you know, it's a tool that could help me navigate through whatever they're going through at that age, you know?
Yeah.
And the fact that we have you to help us to start that with our preschoolers or young, you know, that's the foundation of like where they really begin to like sprout and learn. You know, they're not babies
Yeah.
anymore, but they're at that first step to growing up, you know?
Yeah.
And we're providing yoga for them. So high five.
Dude, high five to you.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I mentioned this to you previously, but Yoga Motion, it was so last year was a crazy year for me.
Yeah.
Just a lot of change. And so much of the time, I mean, right, as adults, when we go through change, some of it's heartbreaking.
Right.
Some of it is confidence building.
Right.
Sometimes it's both.
True.
But last year was crazy, and when I started working with the kids, it happened at a perfect time for me, and the opportunity that you guys gave me, it was so real. I had never, when I started working with the kids and doing kids yoga, I think there was a part of my mind that thought, Why aren't you just like really going hard to teach adults, Elizabeth? Why don't you just push yourself to be a real yoga teacher in LA? I'm more of a real yoga teacher than I ever could have hoped for.
Right.
Now with kids.
Wow. That's amazing.
It gave me a completely different perspective, not only on like the world, but on myself. We're all kids. All of us.
We all are. Yeah.
All of us are a product of those years.
True.
Every single one of us. And to this day, I think all of us as adults can look back on someone in our childhood, one person or multiple people if we're super lucky, right? But one person that saw us, not for who they wanted us to be, but they saw us for who we are.
We are, yeah.
That's a magical thing to take part in with a child.
It is.
And that's my only goal with any of my classes, is to make sure that kids leave my class knowing that for that day, for that moment, someone sees them.
Right.
Not as a title that they should be or someday will be or anything, but as what they are.
Absolutely.
I think we live in a world of a lot of titles, and for myself as a kid, so many of the words that were given to so many of us were given to me. You have so much potential, right? You can do anything that you want. You can be anything that you want. That was told to me so often. You're so smart. You're so this. Why aren't you? And then it becomes a judgment after that.
Yeah.
Right?
What am I to? What am I really to do?
You're so smart. You're so creative. Why are you doing this?
Right.
Why aren't you living up to your potential?
Right.
These kind of conversations happen to children really young.
Every day.
Really young.
Yeah.
And these children then go, wait, what's wrong with me?
Right.
Dude, nothing's wrong with you.
Right. And they tend to get lost in that.
Yeah. Lost in this story of, oh, but I have so much potential, but I'm so creative, but I'm so smart, but I'm so this. And it's like, yeah, you are. You are just that.
Yeah.
That's it.
And that's
Period.
okay.
End of discussion.
And that's okay.
And you get to smile. And the most important thing I think that yoga helps all of us with, whether you're a kid, whether you're an adult, is the ability to smile. Dude. The ability to shut this shit up for just a second, to go like, wait a minute. Can I smile right now? Yeah.
It's okay.
I can. It's cool. Like,
It's interesting that you say that, because when I teach my adult classes, sometimes when I remember where it comes up, while they're have their eyes closed, shavasana at the end, I say, take this time to smile. No one's looking. No one's to judge you. Only you can feel it. You can't even see it. Smile.
Yeah.
And so it's awesome that you bring that up.
Yeah.
Because we forget to smile. We forget to appreciate everything that we do have and what's going on for us.
Yeah, and we forget to use, I think another really big inspiration that I've had working with the kids is we forget about how cool our imagination is.
Oh yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
Our imagination.
Yes, with kids yoga, it's imperative. Obviously, you're trying to grasp the minds of young kids, and how do you do that? It is through imagination, playing with their imagination. What do you do, and how do you use it? Break it down.
Okay. So one of the most powerful tools I think any of us have, obviously, is our imagination, right? And we're based on those things that we just talked about. You're so creative. Why aren't you doing this? You're so smart. Why aren't you doing this? We become obsessed with becoming instead of being.
True.
And to use your imagination allows you the power to be. So with the kids, now we've cultivated their imaginations, or I've cultivated their imaginations a ton. But at the beginning, it was as simple as asking them about hugs. Okay, so I don't think kids know often enough that adults have an imagination. I mean, you and I right now, we can close our eyes and see a purple kangaroo. There's the purple kangaroo. Hello, open my eyes, like, okay, cool, I'm still here in the garage.
Right.
With kids, I think they're so emotional, right? They're so emotional that a big thing to get them to use their imagination is using how big their hearts are. I mean, for as tiny as they are, their hearts are gigantic. And so I would just look around the room and say, who in this room loves hugs from mom and dad? You know? And a lot of them had just been dropped off. A lot of them were still like emotional about that period of being dropped off for the day.
True.
And they would say, well, me, I love my mom and dad. I love that. I love them. I love hugging them. I love hanging out with them.
Sure.
And I was like, did you guys know that you guys can send hugs to whoever you want whenever you want?
No way.
Yeah. And so I would have all of them take a deep breath in, and I'd be like, okay, we're going to talk about your imagination right now. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about how cool that is. Your imagination is this thing that can do whatever you give it power to do. And so I had all of them close their eyes, and I do this during Shavasana too now. But I have all of them close their eyes, and I would say, I want you to see mom and dad. Now I want you to open your arms up really big. And I want you to give yourself a hug. But I want you to feel mom and dad. For just a second, I want you to smell mom and dad.
Yeah.
Feel mom and dad. And
let me do that for a second.
Right? Oh my God, it would choke me up like crazy because, man, I miss my mom and dad. I miss my grandma. You know what I mean?
Totally.
We can all send love through intention all the time.
Love you, mom and dad.
Oh, God, right? Like, God, I love you, mom and dad.
There you go.
But it's that moment of just encouraging a child to not only use their imagination, but to use their heart in tandem with it.
Straight up.
And I think
powerful.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
That's how any of us create, like, that's why you're doing what you're doing right now.
Right.
Which is dope.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. But that combination of things, I guess when I think back to how yoga could have benefited my childhood, I wish I knew how to channel my heart through my imagination as a child. And that's my goal when I teach, is that...
give them that tool. Give them that.
Yeah. And just be silly. I think that's the other thing with the imagination that, gets a little tainted, tarnished as we get older is, like... You and I, right now, probably wouldn't go to the grocery store, get on, like, all fours, and pretend we were a unicorn in aisle 8.
Right.
Why? Because people would be like, that person is fucking crazy.
What's up with that yogi? Or
Yeah.
That hippie.
But kids don't care.
Yeah, they don't care.
They don't... They're like, listen,
no
aisle
judgment.
what? I'll be a unicorn right now. I don't care.
No judgment.
And so...
Awesome.
It's also taking part in that, and I have... gotten to a point through teaching them, like, there are so many times throughout the week, there are so many times throughout my days that I look at ways that I judge myself, ways that I hold myself to certain standards, ways that I am very critical of myself, and then I think to myself, but, like, why? Who cares? Who's looking?
Right. Who gives a fuck?
And who's going to remember tomorrow? Even if I did do a unicorn pose in the middle of aisle 8, the worst that could happen is somebody goes home and laughs about it.
Right. And it's gone.
And they laughed.
Right. Gave him a chuckle.
So who cares?
Who cares?
Like, who cares? Who cares?
Straight up. Yeah. Awesome. So that's awesome that the kids that you service are able to get that, be able to do that thing where they really just tap into their imagination. And yoga, that's what it is for a lot of us adults too. As we practice yoga, we close our eyes, we take breaths, and we move through asana, and we go through our own imagination. We work through life. That's, at least for myself, that's what I do.
Totally, I do it too.
And we're doing things with kids. It's awesome.
We're doing amazing things with kids.
Yeah. So you've been doing it for so long now. Like, what are some of the things that you've noticed with these kids? What change has it done for them? What have you noticed? What have you heard from maybe some of the schools or the teachers or parents in terms of their overall growth and what yoga is doing for them?
Man, it's a loaded question.
It's a loaded question.
So much. Where to start? I'm going to tell another story.
Yeah, of course.
So here we go.
This is storytelling.
A while ago, this was like, I think October, maybe September last year. Every day before I do a yoga class, just kind of back up, my methodology for teaching is storytelling. So every day I try to think of an intention for class, but a story to make the intention incredibly sneaky to a child. Like, if you just go up to a child and you're like, we're going to talk about integrity today. What do you think integrity is? They're going to be like, I don't listen. I'm hungry.
Yeah.
I am bored.
True.
Like, and then I would be bored. So, like, fine. I write stories, right? So I'm also a children's book author.
Right.
But I write stories every week about different planets that we go to, about, you know, all this stuff. I take them out of the classroom and get them to a different place. This one day in particular, it was a Tuesday. I was prepping for a class on Wednesday, and I was drawn to the Yoga Sutras, which never happens because I always, and regretfully, because sometimes even I sell kids short because they just blow my mind all the time. But I was drawn to the sutras, and I was reading this section about the self. And what is the self? Like, is the self your skin? Is the self the script you hear in your head?
Right.
Or is the self someplace past that? Right? Because we are not self-criticism. Is it somewhere past that? Big topic. I think anybody could have a different answer to that. All of them are right if it rings true to you.
True.
But I kind of took this concept and I wanted to test it out with kids. Like, how could kids conceptualize the self? So I got into class, and all the kids were rambunctious that day. Beautifully so. It's so funny to watch them. They're like animals sometimes. Sometimes vicious, sometimes incredibly sweet. And really wild this particular day. And I just said, okay, guys, like, let's all sit down, but who likes riddles? And so they were already in a competitive mood. I said, who likes riddles? Everyone sits down. We do. I'm ready to solve this. What you got?
Right.
And I was like, okay, well, I want everyone in the class today's assignment, before we get started, before we get into our, like, yoga spaceships and fly into space, I want you guys to, dude, it's so cool. I tell people about my beginning sun salutations all the time, and they're like, I want to take spaceship yoga.
Yeah, straight up.
I'm like, I know you do. I know you do.
Right.
So anyway, I asked the kids, I want everyone in the class to tell me who they are, but you cannot say your name. That is off limits. You can't do it. And Heather was in the class. And I was super nervous because when a room of 4 and 5-year-olds goes dead silent, everyone's like, wait, what? Like, I feel like the universe just got thinner.
Right.
I don't know.
Yes. What's going on here?
Happened.
Yeah.
And so everyone got dead silent. And I looked over at Heather, and Heather's smiling at me, and I was like, I have no idea where this is going. Oh my God. Oh God.
But yeah, it's awesome.
And then one of the kids, stood up, and she was like, but Miss Elizabeth, my name is so-and-so. I don't want to say her name now, but she told me her name. I was like, I know, but remember what we were talking about with our imaginations. There's no wrong answer. You cannot get this wrong. I want you to imagine something. And then another 2 long minutes went by, and one of the kids stood up and said, Miss Elizabeth, I get it. I am laughter. Another kid, before I could even respond to that, stands up, Miss Elizabeth, I am joy. Another kid, Miss Elizabeth, I am friendship. And then the original girl that stood up said, Miss Elizabeth, I am love.
Wow.
Like, what?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm crying.
Right.
Heather's crying.
Right.
Both of us. I never could have imagined that. You asked how yoga how I've seen it change kids.
Yeah.
One kiddo in particular went home that day, and when her mom picked her up, this was told to me later, her mom, I guess, had been going through a time, right? Going through a hard time. And kids know, whether they're 4 or 5 or 2 or 3, they pick up on everything.
Right.
And this kid went up to her mom and held her mom's hand and said, hey, Mom, today in class, Miss Elizabeth told us that we are laughter, joy, friendship, and love. And I think if you and I hold hands, we can make it better.
Wow.
Like, wow.
Yeah. Mom's like,
wow. Like, this is why kids yoga has changed my life.
right.
In such a real way.
Right.
How can you... It was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And it changed my life.
Yeah. Excellent. Great story.
I've also seen, we have some kids in our class that have developmental disabilities here and there. I've watched those kids self-soothe. They come into yoga and you teach them a song, and they love the song, they love the music, they love this idea that we're singing together, that we're moving together, that we're doing something that doesn't involve them like sitting and paying attention, right? Like they're experiencing.
They're experiencing, and
yeah,
and they're allowed to be.
They're allowed to be. Nothing that they do is wrong.
Right. You have a student that has a one-on-one that comes to the class, right? Right.
Yep.
He's one that has really flourished.
He's really flourished. It's been
And
it's
the
been
aide speaks well of it too. She goes home to tell
amazing.
the parent, like, it's the yoga's helping this kid.
That's so cool. It's I know exactly who you're talking about. His favorite mat is the orange mat. He knows it's his.
Right.
Every time I bring out my bag, he's like, that's my mat. And I'm like, yes, it is, dude. You go.
Yeah.
It's you. But he does his sun salutations. And when even in class, what is really amazing to me is he'll feel anxiety. He'll start to get anxious and stuff because, that happens.
Right.
And he will sit down and breathe. Whoa. We should all sit down and breathe.
Breathe.
Dude, breathe.
Yeah.
Like, you got to.
Yeah, you got to. Take a moment to think about it and do it consciously.
Yeah. And that's the other thing that's really interesting. Like, if you tell a kid, okay, we're going to do pranayama breath now, so I want you to get your thumb and I want you to get your finger and we're going to do alternate nostril breath, they're going to be like, what?
No.
But if you tell a kid, all right, sit down. I want you to close your eyes and imagine that you are in the most beautiful garden you've ever been in your life. And every flower around you smells amazing.
Right.
Pick one. Smell it. A child will pretend like they're picking up a flower. They will put that up to their face and...
Boom.
Natural.
Boom.
And so it's finding ways to navigate yoga in a way that really isn't, it's not teaching them a formal asana.
Right.
It's
making it accessible for them.
Getting really funky. And I love that.
Yes.
It's so cool.
It's so awesome.
Dude, it's so cool.
So awesome. We're going to continue to do great things.
Yeah. Yeah.
You guys get an opportunity, please check out our website, yogamotionclasses.com. Thank you for sharing that story. Let's switch the topic here. Core power yoga.
Core power yoga.
Yeah. So, as you know, that's where I practice yoga.
Yeah.
Every morning, 6 a.m. C2 core power
C2.
yoga in Torrance, and sometimes Redondo.
Nice.
It's what I love.
Toasty. That's a toasty class.
Yeah,
too.
it's a toast. 6 a.m. just starts off our day right. So it's for all of
Yeah.
us lunatics that are up really early.
Yeah.
But it's a great class because it sets the foundation for the rest of our day,
Mm-hmm.
which is really cool. So I love the core power method, and obviously you were trained in it, right?
Yes, I was.
Tell me a little bit
Yeah.
more about your training through core power and maybe your early experiences with it.
So I started to go to core power in Denver. So in Littleton, actually, when I was, how many years ago did I get certified? I'm trying to even think. I don't know. I started to go to class. I started to just go to the C1. And after going to the C1 for a while, I think what was really amazing, I mean, I certainly wasn't my healthiest at that time. I was, like so many of us, self-critical of my body, uncomfortable with my body, very judgmental.
Right.
And started going to yoga. It's kind of the same thing as you, right? Like I had so many people that were like, dude, you should try yoga.
Right.
And so I did, and I never looked back. I think, the C1 and the C2 programming there, I mean, a lot of it is based off of Baron Baptiste's book, Journey to Yoga, which if you've not checked it out, check it out, because it really is very much core power. But, yeah, it was a way for me to move my body intentionally, and what I thought was really incredible about the way that most core power studios are set up is they have that, the big, mirror.
Right. Let's talk about mirrors really quickly.
Yeah, I love it. Go ahead.
Do you?
Mm-hmm. No, I love the conversation.
Yeah. I've never really been a big fan of mirrors. I mean, I came from 24-hour fitness yoga. That's where I said, I originally started. And there's mirrors in there, obviously, because they host a myriad of different classes in their studio, not just yoga.
Right.
But I've never really been a fan of it because I feel like every time I practice, I get too focused on everything else that's going on, and there's just too many distractions in the mirror, whether it's myself or everything else that's going on. In core power, there's mirrors everywhere.
There's mirrors everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere. Every studio I've been into in a core power.
Even in the column, there's mirrors around the columns. But
wait, they have mirrors on the columns?
Yeah,
that'd be trippy.
Be
like an eagle pose and be like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh God.
yeah. But I've grown to get used to it, and I like it for alignment purposes. Why do you like the mirrors? Sometimes I hate it. Most of the time I prefer not to have it.
Well, I think I'm like you though. I have I don't know. Sometimes I like mirrors.
Right.
Sometimes I don't.
Right. We're talking about mirrors here.
I know, right? Ugh. I think for all of us, I think it depends on the day. I think our reflection is a really interesting thing.
Right.
In general.
It is.
Because there's a lot of times, I think, especially in today's world, with social media being as big as it is, we have the opportunity, I think, to look at ourselves more than we ever have.
Right.
It's really easy to get caught into defining yourself as the reflection,
right,
instead of knowing that you yourself control the reflection.
Sure. Yeah.
Mirror work, I think, is interesting, especially when you're practicing yoga, because that concept has always hit me whenever I'm practicing in front of a mirror. I'm with you, especially if you're doing a balancing class. Here's the thing. If you're doing a balancing class and then, Joe over here is super off balance and Sally over here is super in balance, and then you're between the two and you're watching somebody wobble like this, and then you're watching this person and you're judging yourself wanting to be this, and you don't want to be this, and then you fall.
Yes, that's exactly why.
There's an element of Ugh.
Yes.
Ugh.
Right.
I'm done.
Yes, and for me, it's hard for me to close my eyes during balancing poses because I can't do it. I can't balance and
You shouldn't say that you can't do it. You can do it.
I can, but it's
hard,
rather challenging. Yeah, it's rather challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, everyone has their opinions on mirrors for sure, and
yeah.
But
I mean, back to core power.
Back to core power.
Yeah, when I went to there was like this one moment that I did have, and it was in a C2, and the lights are really dim in this class in particular throughout. Like we were doing a flow that was about self-care, and I had this moment where for the first time in my life, I looked up at my whole physical form. I was an eagle and liked what I saw.
Right.
And not because of like how corporally fit I was, how, you know, like I looked at my reflection as a reflection of me.
Right.
That was the first time I'd felt that way.
That's awesome.
And yeah, and
so I don't mean to cut you off.
No.
Were you finished with that story?
Yeah.
When we're talking about mirrors, and something just kicked into my memory bank here long ago, probably like 12, 11 years ago. We were practicing forearm stand. And one of my friends, Bien, that I met through yoga at 24 Hour Fitness. Bien, if you're listening to this, yeah, I'm sure you remember this. I'm sure you talk about this all the time. He's in Kansas City now. But we were practicing it, and he was, like kicking up or floating up, and he's in the front row, and he kicks the mirror. Mirror shatters.
No, I've heard about that, dude. I have heard about that. Like, and then what do you do? You're like, well,
I mean, he got into the pose. He did. It was like, be careful getting out of it. There's glass everywhere.
There's literally glass everywhere. You might bleed.
Yeah, exactly.
Risky pose.
Right.
Risk and reward go hand in hand.
Yeah, totally.
In that situation, yikes.
Oh, Bien, Kelly Houston. I'm sure you guys remember that one. Anyway. So do you still teach at Core Power now, or
I don't.
No?
I don't.
Is there a reason behind that? Personal choice?
I think it yeah, definitely. I think it all comes down to personal choice for me. I felt, and this is, like, again, we all have our own thing. Core Power is an absolutely beautiful company. Some of the best teachers that I have ever worked with.
Right.
Crystal Bosca, if you are out there, like, girl.
She's on
Carrie Miriam, another incredible yoga teacher that I knew through Core Power Yoga. So many others. Their classes were awesome for me. I think as a yoga teacher, sometimes as teachers, we like to take different classes than we like to teach.
True.
The kind of classes that I like to teach are either like kids yoga, or I like to do slower flows. I really like long holds.
You do.
And the reason I like long holds is when I'm building a sequence, one of the things that's helped me over the years, especially concerning yoga, is really getting in touch with my body and taking time. My brain works so quickly that sometimes teaching vinyasa flow, I find myself like skipping along and losing intention. For my teaching methodology and for my brain, I don't feel like I'm able to show up for my students as much as I am when I'm able to give them really specific alignment cues.
Right.
Really intentional cues to pull certain musculature in, engage certain muscles, and bring intention with their mind. It's amazing that, right now we're talking. I'm not thinking about my hand moving too much. Like, it's just doing it because that's what happens. But if any of us take time to go, okay, I want to bring intention to bringing awareness to my pointer finger. well, all of a sudden I feel it.
Right.
Right? So those little things in yoga. So I like hatha more. I like anusara more.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that's where you kind of have, you use the core power and everything you learned there. I'm sure everything was great, and then now you're kind of on this different path.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, but everything that I learned at Core Power, you know, I think a lot of teachers get stuck in this mentality where you just want to be like, this way and that way sucks and this is the like I love, dude, it's all yoga.
Yeah, it is all yoga, and I love the Core Power method. I really do, and it works. But this is where I'm going to say my butt about Core Power, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but it's just this.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's all of this too, you know. So for the only Core Power people that just practice just Core Power, I feel like they're missing out on everything over here.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Core Power method is great and it works.
Yeah.
You know? And that's fine if that's, you know, that's their boat, you know. But there's so much more out there, and I think a lot of people that I've come into contact with at Core Power and have befriended, you know, a lot of the teachers. Have you know, some of them have ventured off, you know. They're taking training at Yoga Works or wherever, you know, studio nearby, and they're, you know, I talk to them and it's like, wow, there's so much more. I didn't know this. And it's like, yeah.
There's so much more.
You know, that's
the
Core
yoga
Power.
world
you know?
is huge.
Huge, yeah.
The yoga world is huge. Like, even right now we have our tea on an Ashtanga yoga book. Like, there's so much. Like, even with Ashtanga, you're talking about the ability to find so much foundation that you can do yoga with bare feet outside.
Right. Yeah.
You don't have to do yoga in a 94-degree room on a mat.
Right.
You don't,
when I first started yoga, hot yoga that didn't exist. It existed, excuse me, but it was Bikram. And
so scripted.
Yeah, so scripted, and I just didn't like the Bikram style and the heat. You know, I hated it.
Yeah.
And so I always just practice in a normal temperatured room, you know, and then all of a sudden hot yoga, hot vinyasa started to come about. And it took me a while to adapt to that heat. I love it now, but the problem with the heat, let's talk about heat. The problem with the heat and the humidity is that it can get out of whack. It's never consistent. So sometimes it's too humid. Or it's too freaking dry.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like, you don't know what to expect every time you roll out your mat and you're going to practice, because, man, I tell you, I know it's all in the head, but it's also physical when it gets too, like, it just gets too much, you know?
Totally. I agree with you. I think, I agree with you. And I think, like you just said, I'm going to kind of piggyback off of what you just said. When, you know, it's all in your head. I don't know about you, but every time I roll out my yoga mat, I have no idea what my body needs to tell me.
Right.
You know, like, we roll out our mats to have a conversation with our physical form.
Sure.
And just like you never know what a day is going to bring, all you can do is really just smile, choose, know that you have the power of choice throughout your day. It's the same thing with yoga, I think. With heat, what I think is interesting is heat is an interesting tool. It's one that encourages students to get very intentional with their breath. Otherwise, you're going to feel sick. I mean, it forces you.
Right.
If you do... For instance, if you take a heated class, you haven't eaten throughout the whole day, you haven't had enough water throughout the whole day, you go into a heated class, you exhaust yourself, you haven't been breathing properly, and then you go into camel pose, that moment's gonna suck. Like, you're gonna come out of that pose and sit down, and your head's gonna be swimming, you might feel like you're blacking out.
Been there.
Like... I have too. When it happened to me the first time too, I was like, am I speaking to God? Like, what is happening? Right?
Yes.
Like, you don't know. It's crazy.
You take a deep breath, you kind of come to.
Yeah, and then you're like, wow.
Whoa.
Well,
okay.
Here we go. Like, that was weird.
Right?
So I think what it did for me after that, I mean, with such like a close thing, when you're feeling nauseous, you know, all that, it's like, oh, right. Like I have lungs.
Right.
I should use them.
Sure,
I should like.
And then you come back.
Yeah, you come back to reality, and then you finally get to a point where you're like, oh yeah, camel pose. I'm going to put my hands at, you know, the base of my hips. I'm going to actually lean back, take a deep breath in, and like actually breathe through this.
Heart. Yeah.
Bikram. Oh my God. I had a cold last year. There was this Bikram class by my old house in Silver Lake. I had a cold, and sometimes I think as yogis we're incredibly awesome.
Right.
And then there are those certain days where it's like, are you an idiot? Right? So this was my idiot day. I woke up, I had a cold. It was like near the tail end of it. I didn't eat breakfast at all. I took Dayquil, and then I went to a Bikram yoga class.
Worst experience ever.
Dude, it was so bad. I did actually black out in class. It was halfway through the class, and I could feel the whole class like there were dark circles that were closing in on my eyes. And I was like, oh shit. Oh no. And so I like no, and with just very little light left, I like got out of the room and was able to sit outside and then blacked out.
Really?
Yes. And like 5 minutes later I came to, and I was like, this was not your shining moment of the week.
Right.
You need to get in your car and you need to go home. Like, good try, buddy.
Right.
You did good.
Interesting.
Go home. So I think, and to kind of bring that back, what I love about teaching kids yoga too, it's so playful, but to encourage kids to take care of themselves.
Right.
On a holistic level, where it's like, you don't have to push yourself all the time. You can sometimes.
Right.
You don't have to be strong all the time, but sometimes you need to be strong.
Sure.
You don't have to be happy all the time, but sometimes it's helpful.
Right. As you roll out your mat, just take it for what it is. Listen to your body and do what you can. Push yourself a little bit, but if you need to ease back a little bit, ease back.
Yeah, but yeah, I've blacked out in a Bikram class.
That's crazy. So, moving on from that, you're working on a new project, right? Yeah. GotLoves.com.
GotLoves.com.
Yeah. What are you doing with that? What do you envision? What do you plan?
So it's at like baby stages right now. So if anyone like goes to GotLoves.com today on March whatever it is right now, you'll see like one blog article and that's it. But
it's okay. It's progress.
GotLoves.com is an idea that I had that really was inspired by working with you guys.
Really?
Which, like, side note, you and Heather are amazing people that have such an amazing company that you've built that's doing incredible things, not just for, you know, the kids, even though that's the main priority, right? It's you're giving adults the opportunity to see magic in what magic really is. A lot of us think magic happens when you put on a wizard's hat and you have no. Magic happens here with your feet on the ground, like here in this reality. It happens all the time, and you guys provide space for that. It's
thank you,
amazing. GotLoves.com was really inspired by the kids. As I mentioned earlier too, and anyone from my past that you talk to would attest to this 100%. But I have ADD. Grew up with it.
Right.
I was that kid that needed yoga like crazy. And what was always interesting to me is I always felt like I had to work to be a title. I always felt like I had to work to be a professional, successful star player that had to win and had to be on the front page of everything. And like that is how I grew up. Right. And it took me until watching these kids to go, wait, that's like not what it's about. Life, all of our lives should be about giving ourselves the permission to learn through wonder instead of through trial, instead of through heartbreak, instead of disappointment. And I think a lot of the titles that we set up for a lot of kids end up making adults that think that you can only learn through hard times in life. Bullshit. Bullshit. You can learn through wonder too. Now, the hard part about that is getting really clear with what you love. And I never felt like I was really in control over my ADD until I started to truly identify, wait, what makes me tick? The idea of gotloves.com is to encourage people to do that. It's to encourage people to find what they love, find what makes them tick, not allow the world to tell you what that is, not allow parents to tell you what that is, not allow friends or magazines or social media. None of that has your answer. Like, it might have some inspiration, but it doesn't have your story. You are the only person that has that. So how do we turn our world around a little bit to focus on what we love and be successful in a different way? And gotloves.com is meant to promote people who are doing things with their whole heart, and to showcase the success of what happens when you go into any project with your whole heart and your whole mind, instead of, I'm doing this because I need to catch up, I'm doing this because I have to pay my bills, we all have that. That is all going to still be there if you shift your thought, right? So yeah, that's the whole thing. It's blogging beautiful. About it. It's just sharing my story, and it's promoting others.
Yes.
That's it.
Promoting others to share their story as well.
Yeah. Like you guys with Yoga Motion. I mean, setting up a company that is around bringing yoga to kids, bringing awareness to children so young, allowing them to utilize their imagination. You know, I work with other nonprofit industries. One of them is inourhands.love. I'm writing some grants for those guys right now. They're providing renewable energy for free to places around the United States, so that impoverished areas can have free energy, and then take that money to provide free energy for their neighbors. And it's something that can go on and go on and go on.
Beautiful.
I'm working with a nonprofit organization called License to Freedom out of San Diego, and they are promoting wellness and trying to prevent domestic violence among the refugee community, and battling and confronting racism in a completely different way with compassion. Just changing the game. Sometimes all we need to do to make really big change is to look at the bright spots, the things that are truly working, as opposed to focusing on the negative crap.
Right.
Because negative crap, focus on that, perpetuates more of it.
Absolutely. Doing great things. That's awesome. You have your hands in really good places, and your heart and your intention are all in the right direction, girl.
Thank you so much.
Keep on keeping on. So gotloves.com in the works. Is there any other like media outlets where like anyone can find you at or contact you?
Not yet. It'll be a second. Give me a second.
Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram like for sure. Liz Got Loves is
Nice.
my Instagram handle. I've got, some of the stuff that we do with the kids is on there.
Nice.
Little
Awesome.
things that I find here and there that are just inspiring to me, and remind me to just, like all of us yogis, right? Like sometimes you just need a reminder to be like, oh, right, I'm fine.
That's true.
Am I fine? Yeah, no, I'm
That's
fine.
true.
I'm good.
Right.
It's good.
So thank you for taking the time
Oh my
out
God,
today
thank you so much,
to
Mike.
share your journey.
You guys
share
are
your
incredible.
story.
It's such an honor, man.
Yeah, and
It's such an honor.
Keep on keeping on, and we'll continue on that same path.
Sounds good.
So thanks.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate you. Appreciate you, Breezy.
Breezy.
Appreciate you.